Now, from WBRZ News 2, this is Tune In.
Good morning and thanks for tuning in on this Thursday, June 11th. I'm Kylie Dixon. John Pastrick is enjoying some time off. We begin with the final day for state lawmakers to get work done at the Capitol. The budget is still a hot topic after 2 months. Governor Jindal is threatening to veto certain bills unless legislators can find money to offset the increase. The state has more than $1 billion gap to fill. Time is running out in the regular session, which ends tonight at 6. We'll have more on the budget debate coming up. Another big story, the search for 2 escaped prisoners out of upstate New York has expanded. Officials are now looking in neighboring state Vermont for David Sweat and Richard Mack. The 2 escaped 6 days ago by cutting their way out of the Clinton Correctional Facility. Investigators are trying to figure out who gave them power tools. Police are focusing on a training supervisor at the prison tailor shop. Let's check in with meteorologist Josh Eachus. Josh, a little rain yesterday afternoon, a little thunder, but nothing severe, anything like that.
Yeah, we saw a lot of lightning, and it was mainly just west of Baton Rouge, pretty much falling into that 40% category yesterday. All of that happened west of town. Today, we're going to ramp the coverage up a little bit.
Thank you, Josh. We continue at the Capitol with the final 12 hours of the legislative session. The biggest issue on this final day, the budget, and it's expected to be a showdown. News 2's Rebecca Buchanan is live from the Capitol with more. Hey, Rebecca, good morning. So what is the biggest challenge for legislators in these last hours?
Hey, good morning. Well, as we know, the Senate did set forth a budget, but then the House rejected it. So in these last final hours behind closed doors, the conference committee is making some final decisions. The biggest question on the table is, will the governor get the tax breaks that he wants, or will the House come up with some kind of compromise that he can agree to? Altogether, lawmakers have raised around $800 million in revenue. That money should avoid any cuts to state colleges and health care for the poor. But if Governor Jindal does not get those breaks that he wanted, specifically the SAVE Act for higher education, he has threatened a veto. Then political analysts say all bets are off.
So you're talking about absolute total chaos if that happens, because no one knows whether the legislature really has the will to override the governor on these vetoes that he might make. And what happens in the meantime anyway? The government runs out of money.
And analysts say that a veto at this point would be devastating, because it would be the 21st of next month before a veto session could actually be convened, and that's almost a month into the next fiscal year. Live from the Capitol, Rebecca Buchanan, keeping you up to date on the budget issues. We will be back in just a little bit. Kylie, back to you.
Thank you, Rebecca. We appreciate it. Also, looking ahead, the 2 finalists vying to lead Southern University will be on campus today trying to draw support. Ray Belton on the left and Ivory Toldson are the last 2 standing out of 6. Today, listening sessions will be held on campus for several groups. The first for staff, beginning at 10 a.m. The person selected will take over for outgoing President Ronald Mason and will also be named Chancellor of the Baton Rouge campus. On the crime beat, a new murder case opened in Baton Rouge. 23-year-old Anthony Johnson was shot to death last night while sitting on a porch in the 1800 block of Plank Road near I-110. People who knew him say it was his grandmother's house. Family members are speaking out, saying violence is not the answer to solving problems.
Please stop the violence. It's better resolutions to fighting, shooting, killing. Please stop. Please. It don't resolve anything. You still have the anger built up when that person is dead. So please stop.
The investigation into Johnson's murder is ongoing. Police don't have any suspects or a possible motive at this point. Arrests have been made in Ascension Parish into a year-old murder case.
I just wanted somebody to come forward, you know what I'm saying?
And that's exactly what the sheriff says happened in the case of 15-year-old Brandon Augusta. But he didn't say who. The Donaldsonville teen was beat to death last August. His body found behind a levee. The sheriff says synthetic drugs played a role in his killing. 4 people were arrested, including 2 minors. Some of the suspects arrested have lengthy arrest records. Marcus Esther was arrested 21 times, and one of the minors 53 times. The juveniles were brought back to Ascension Parish from Monroe.
And once again, it points to the heinous nature of why it's bad. It wasn't a homicide enough. Wasn't blunt trauma enough. Wasn't that enough? But when you talk about these kinds of gangsters and these kinds of habitual criminals, young. One of these habitual criminals, one of these has been arrested 53 times.
It just go to show you how your kids can just be in the community and run up with people and say that's your friends. I didn't even know them. I didn't even know them guys.
The district attorney's office is filing paperwork to charge the 2 juveniles as adults. If and when they're charged, their names will be released. Lawyers for Albert Woodfox are fighting to get him out of Angola. On Monday, a federal judge ordered Woodfox to be released after 40 years locked up, but the state blocked it, winning an emergency stay. Woodfox is one of 3 accused of killing a guard back in 1972, but his 2 convictions were overturned. The state wants to try him again. One person is behind bars this morning, accused of setting an apartment building on fire, displacing more than a dozen people. The fire broke out in Sherwood Meadows near I-12 in Sherwood. Took crews nearly an hour to control the blaze. No one was hurt, but 4 units burned and 14 people are now without a home. Fire officials say after interviewing witnesses, a man was taken into custody and charged. Residents say the fire also appeared suspicious to them.
Somebody went in and out, and he came out. Then the next thing we know, the people apartment was on fire.
Then you heard a boom. It was too fast. Yes. Somebody had to burn it down because then it just ain't gonna burn for no reason. I'm just saying.
I think it's sad that somebody would even consider to do something like this and make people homeless.
The Red Cross is assisting those people displaced by the fire. An hour debate at the Metro Council ended with a no when it comes to body cameras for police in Baton Rouge. It's an issue that's been put off twice over the past month. Members even changed the deadline from January to December of next year to get the cameras, but it was still voted down. The entire council and the police chief want body cameras, but some council members are worried about how to pay for them. Others say it's not about the money.
I want my baby to be able to go to school, get educated, get a good job, and make it home alive. And if the police officers got to have a doggone body camera on themselves to make that happen, I don't care how much money it costs, to be honest with you. If we can build buildings, we can build roads, we can build bridges, we can save some lives. Now, whatever it takes to do that, that's my vote, that's my stance, and I'm going to stand on that till Jesus comes.
The police department is getting 100 body cameras through a grant, and Chief Carl Dabney says they should have them within the next month. Customer service is what the incoming superintendent of East Baton Rouge Parish is focusing on. That's why Warren Drake is emphasizing.
We've got to own our schools, and we've got to be customer friendly to the people of East Baton Rouge Parish. Who are our customers? Our students, their parents, and every citizen of East Baton Rouge Parish. So this is what we need to do. We need to take back our schools and make sure that the public understands we think they're important. We know they're important. We're going to take care of them and do what we have to do.
Drake wants to focus on instruction and give principals the ability to run their schools. He officially replaces Bernard Taylor on July 1st, but is serving as a paid consultant until then. Still to come on this Thursday, how businesses in North Louisiana are stepping up to help flood victims as the Red River continues to cause problems. And find out why LSU fans aren't the only ones happy to see the baseball team in the College World Series. The latest from Omaha coming up. Time now is at 5:10, 72 degrees. We'll be back.
More traffic and weather is up in 10 minutes with your 7-day forecast included. Now back over to Kylie with Money News.
Thank you, Josh. Small businesses are coming to the aid of flood victims in North Louisiana. People from bars and gyms are donating items to the people affected by the cresting Red River. The river has swallowed some yards and put some houses underwater. One storage company is donating free space for people to lock up their possessions and keep them dry. The Red River currently sits just above 37 feet.
We just felt like it was the right thing to do.
I mean, good grief. It's we're all in this together, and it's it's the same community, same folks. We work and play with all these people.
Parishes are still trying to assess all of the damage. A spokesman in Bossier Parish says 2 or 3 dozen houses are flooded and 2,000 farm animals have been moved to higher ground. Louisiana's economy grew last year, but not as much as the country as a whole. New figures show Louisiana's economy grew by 1.9% and was 19th among states for growth. The nation grew by 2.2%. Oil refineries and chemical makers boomed, but oil and gas drilling shrank. America's favorite a cappella group, might be making a return to Louisiana. There are already talks about a third Pitch Perfect movie. The first two movies were shot here and pumped a lot of money into the state. According to a report released last week, it brought $40 million into Louisiana. 800 workers were hired and 7,000 nights were booked into the Baton Rouge hotel rooms. LSU is headed to Omaha for the College World Series this morning, and fans aren't the only ones excited about the trip. Tournament vendors are seeing dollar signs. They say LSU baseball brings lots of fans and cash. Last year, the Tigers didn't make it to the tournament and profits took a hit. They say Tiger fans travel in packs better than any other team. Vendors will be rooting for LSU because they want Tiger fans in the stands as long as possible.
Ever since we learned that LSU was one of the teams attending, I think our adrenaline is that much more pumping.
To have an LSU order going in, you know that's probably 3 times as many t-shirts as they might have ordered for another team. You want people that are going to bring tons of people into our city. You know, we embrace them all as a community anyway, but the ones that are kind of loud and rowdy are they just make the event so exciting.
LSU will play its first game against TCU Sunday at 2, and News 2 will be covering the Tigers every step of the way. With more money news, here's ABC.
A look at your weather headlines on this Thursday morning. We're going to get that weather acting back up again with more showers and thunderstorms expected today, more so than yesterday. More traffic and weather at the bottom of the hour. Now more from Kylie at the desk.
Thank you, Josh. We continue with the hunt for 2 escaped murderers. It's the 6th day and the search is expanding outside of New York, but officials are still hopeful the 2 men may still be just outside of the prison. Andrew Spencer has the latest.
In the community outside the Clinton Correctional Facility, police retraced their steps to make sure they didn't miss anything in the search for Richard Matt and David Sweat.
There's been so much speculation, and one minute we think they're still here in Denimore, the next minute we think they're in Willsboro.
They have no idea where they are. I don't think they got a clue.
There have been reported sightings of the 2 escaped killers, but police have not been able to verify them.
We've received more than 500 leads, and we're thoroughly investigating each and every one.
New York State Police say they're searching behind every tree and under every rock for the 2 men. Flyers are even being handed out in Vermont.
We have information that suggests that they thought that New York was going to be hot, Vermont would be cooler in terms of law enforcement, and that a camp in Vermont might be a better place to be than New York.
But officials don't know where in Vermont, and they don't know whether the 2 escaped inmates actually followed through with that plan.
The only way to pursue this type of investigation is to follow every lead that you have and follow every lead as if this is the one that's going to break the case.
Even as the search area spreads, authorities are trying to keep an eye on the details. They say there's no hard evidence that the 2 men have left the state of New York. I'm Andrew Spencer reporting.
2 teenagers were killed and 2 others seriously injured after they were hit by an SUV. The teens were walking on the sidewalk for a school PE program when an SUV ran off the road and struck them. An 18-year-old and 15-year-old boy were killed. 2 other boys have serious injuries. Troopers say the driver fell asleep at the wheel. An investigation will determine whether drugs or alcohol were involved. A vigil was held last night for the victims. A shark was killed after a truck carrying 4 of the large fish ran off the highway in Florida. The sharks were being taken to an aquarium in New York City when the truck they were in blew a tire. The animals were in separate tanks. Only one was damaged. The 3 people in the vehicle were not hurt. A SeaWorld rescue team moved the remaining sharks to a facility in Orlando. An American soldier was killed assisting in the fight against ISIS. Keith Broomfield from Massachusetts was fighting alongside Kurdish fighters in Syria. His sister shared an image on Facebook showing a screenshot of their last conversation in which he says, "I understand, don't worry about me, I got this." The U.S. is sending more troops to Iraq to help in the fight against ISIS, but some say it's wrong without declaring war on the militant group. The 450 troops will be helping, advising, and training Iraqi soldiers in an effort to turn the Iraqi military into an effective fighting force. People from both political parties object the president's decision. There are already more than 3,000 U.S. forces in Iraq. Still to come, we'll be checking with Rebecca. She has a live report from the Capitol. She's talking about the last day of the session. It's all coming up. It is at 5:28, 72 degrees.